Welcome to SuperCoach and welcome to the weekend preview. Just going to take a bit of a look at some of the key issues for round 2 in our SuperCoach world. And just quickly, I will be doing the Q&A, but in terms of how we're going to do it, I think I'll look to separate these two videos, obviously, but I did float the idea of combining them pre-season. But I think I'll do sort of a 5 to 7 minute weekend preview, just hit a few of the teams, the key topics, and then answer your questions individually. So, you know, exactly when those videos come out, I'll have to wait and see. This one should be up and about before the Adelaide-Richmond game, but really it's mainly important to have everything up before the Friday night game, as we know, and I will be anticipating the Q&A to be up as early as possible as I can on the Friday. So plenty of interest in the Q&A, so thanks for all your questions. But look, in terms of weekend preview, I've only had one round. I'll go through the round teams in a minute for round 2. But generally speaking, I would say hold fire more often than not. I don't think we should really trade unless you've got an injury or anything like that. Now, of course, Paddy Ryder is the main one. And I think at his price, we have an array of options. And clearly, I think a bloke like Stephen Martin is a guy I've endorsed a lot. Nick Naitanui is one that a lot of people will talk about. I will put a word of warning out there. I'm still not sold on him being a great selection. I know he looked great, 113 off 70% game time or whatever it was. He's definitely capable of that. I'm concerned about him and his ability to do it over the course of the season. And I think you've picked Ryder as a premium, and if you bring in Nick Nat in, then you're looking him to do the same job. We're looking for 22 games of premium numbers. I'm not sure he has that in him. So the jury's out for me with Nick Nat. I would be steering clear and I'd be going for someone far safer. The likes of a Stephen Martin. I think Brodie Grundy's still a fairly viable option. You know, obviously everyone has gone, but, you know, I think I'd be going for one of those safer guys that we talk about. Maybe Nankervis as well might float your boat there. In terms of the teams, a few youngsters have come in. Adam Chera, Crowden from Freo, don't know much about him. Ed Richards at the Dogs. Cam O'Shea, the dreaded round 2 inclusion. Would have been great if he played first up Blues. That would have been great, but nonetheless, he's in. Willie Rioli for the Eagles is in. Robbie Gray, of course, I'm not sure many would have selected him after that round 1 suspension. And Paddy Dangerfield, of course, comes back in the Cats lineup as many expected. So going out of our teams, well, look, Paddy Ryder, Tom Liberatore, and Tommy Bell. You know, I thought he might have got a bit more opportunity, but Matheson seems to have taken his spot. So, look, I think aside from injuries, which a few people might be affected, you know, Zach Merritt seems to be named and is likely to play clearly. Looks like he's gotten through all right, and he's a guy that I'm sure we'll be looking to pick up cheaply soon enough. Same said for Dane Zorko. He should be quite cheap. The only bugger with people scoring low in round 1 is we only get one price drop from that score. If you can visualise it with the 3-round rolling average, you know, that 17 or whatever it was that Merritt scored, he's only going to get the price drop in round 3. So that 3-round rolling average is rounds 1, 2 and 3. Then the 17 drops off. If he had done that in round 2, then all of a sudden we get a price drop for round 3 and a price drop for round 4, which you can generally envision maybe 50 to 60k each time. We won't quite get that. He'll be cheaper, but maybe not as cheap as possibly could have got him. But that's splitting hairs. And anyway, on the extended benches, there's blokes like Venables, Liam Ryan, Ed Richards, Don Barry. So just keep an eye out for those guys and make sure they get named if they're in your team. But generally speaking, I am saying hold fire. The only reason you wouldn't hold fire, and I've been pondering this too because I've got Christian Salem, he stunk it up, did cop a bit of a neck injury. Did that affect his score? I'm not sure. 12 touches was very, very poor. And then you've got a bloke like Sicily, who's just down the track a little bit, a bit cheaper, scores 124 or whatever it was. So the only reason I would say pull the trigger after round 1 is if you're very confident in it, clearly. But secondly, if you can envision the fact that maybe you've missed a couple of rookies and maybe next week you might need to do 3 trades or you might need to do 4. Let's hope not. But if you reckon you've missed a few guys and you never know what's going to happen with injury, I would say you'd hate to get to next week and be like, oh, Jesus, I want this bloke on the bench here. That rookie's flying. oh man, I've still got Salem, or I've still got so-and-so who stunk it up, and I really want to get rid of them before this other bloke goes up, like a Sicily or a Bonner or a Cornelio or something like that. But you don't have enough trades, and you've got to get the rookies in. So you do want to make sure you leave yourself enough wriggle room in terms of trading. So I generally say, as a key rule, give them 2 weeks, because you've spent all pre-season researching and finalising a team. So to blow it on 1 week would be perhaps a bit hastily, but potentially, if you've got a bit on your plate, and maybe you've, I don't know, have you missed a Holman, have you missed a Kelly or something like that, then maybe you might be thinking, I might need a few trades, or just prioritise it. Prioritise it so you don't be left short next week. But yeah, that's about all I wanted to say today. As I said, I wanted to keep these weekend previews relatively short and sharp. So I'll have the Q&A up tomorrow, answering each of your questions individually. So that should be very good. But yeah, just weigh it up in terms of whether you really need a trade or you're doing it off the back of 1 week's frustration. So certainly don't get too disgruntled in terms of your round 1 score if it didn't go quite to plan, because you really want to be judging your team as a whole over the first 1, 2, 3, even 4 weeks. Certainly still find your groove, I suppose, as a team in those overall rankings. You really need a good month to judge it, I reckon. So yeah, stay tuned for the Q&A. I'm sure most people will be probably more interested in that, but these are pretty much my general thoughts and philosophies ahead of the round. So thanks for tuning in. I'll chat to you soon. Q&A will be up tomorrow. Thanks, guys.